Hi, welcome to this edition of For the Love of You. I am Theola Cooper, and today I'm just really tickled and pleased that we have the Stromies with us today. And Stromies is the word that they came up with for stroke homies. These three young ladies are just phenomenal, and they are stroke survivors. So we have Sarah Conway, Angie Jorgensen, and Tamsin Butler. And actually, practicing what they preach, two of the young ladies have just finished working out today. So, so we'd like to welcome you. Thank you for being on For the Love of You. So how's it going today?
Thanks for having
Good.
us. Happy Monday.
Beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day, yes. So, so you guys did just finish working out, and and keeping true to helping to prevent stroke. Would you like to share your story? Who wants to go first?
Okay, sure. So my name is Sarah Conaway, and I did just come from the gym because the right side of my body is affected. It's weaker and doesn't necessarily move exactly like my left side, and so working out keeps me stronger and symmetrical as best as I could be. I had my stroke February of 2016, and I was actually in the emergency room at Children's Hospital with my then 3-year-old daughter because she had a terrible earache. My husband was out of town in North Carolina attending his grandfather's funeral, and so I was single parenting. So I took her to the emergency room, and as soon as I sit down to fill out the paperwork, I just completely lose feeling on the right side of my body, and I am dizzy and confused. I don't know what's going on, and they take me back at Children's Hospital, get me hooked up to all the equipment, and take me next door to Methodist, thankfully, which is right next door, where I'd never been, and they realized that I've had a stroke, an ischemic stroke. I was on blood thinners at the time, which is kind of rare. I've never been one to go with the flow, so I've always had to be different. And so I had a stroke on blood thinners. And so 3 days later, I'm still in the hospital and I was starting to get better. I actually started to get worse. My mom noticed and encouraged them to do more testing because I was supposed to be getting better and instead was getting worse. And they realized that I had a second stroke, which is hemorrhagic. And so my brain was bleeding. And they had to counteract my blood thinners with a shot of what's called Kcentra to stop the bleeding. And I was off of blood thinners altogether for 2 weeks after a stroke, which is extremely scary because I'd had a stroke on blood thinners. So we kind of just did the best thing that they knew, and thankfully it worked. Got the bleeding to stop, and I spent 5 weeks inpatient, relearning activities of daily living that we take for granted every day. I mean, I remember when I was able to take my first steps, for example, and there's still deficits that I deal with, weakness on my right side, lack of sensation, memory, aphasia, exhibit A, and things like that. But I am just so grateful for every day an opportunity that I have to live. I mean, I really approach every day now completely differently than I did before. I mean, I've always been grateful and I've always had a positive outlook, but now it's like just to open my eyes in the morning, I am so blessed. And having an opportunity to meet these two ladies, it was probably end of last year, so it's almost been a year, has just filled my heart so much, and I am so grateful that the American Heart and Stroke Association brought us together, because I found Tamsin, and Tamsin said, you got to meet Angie, and I'll let Tamsin tell the story because she is a wordsmith, and she tells it fabulously. So, and speaking of fabulous, this here is Angie Jorgensen, and I really don't know if I've ever met anyone so fabulous. Tamsin, am I right?
I think you're right.
Okay, so without further ado, here's Angie.
Okay, it's kind of funny because our stroke stories are, while they're different, We all recognize the similarities, but through it, the strength I think that we've found additionally, and if we can encourage that, we're so happy to pay it forward.
Yes.
And hear your story and just everyone's. It truly, the journey of it, it is amazing the adversity and the things that you can go through. But how, if you are looking for it, there are blessings all over. And I think we're still discovering that. My story is a little different, and my stroke actually came as a complication of other things that I went through at the time. But I've had a healthy lifestyle my whole life, same as Sarah and Tamsin, and I'm a mom of 4, have a great husband. Oh my gosh, a busy life. I've run marathons, I've taught fitness classes, so I had a healthy lifestyle to begin with. For me, mine came a little bit differently. I had not been feeling well, thinking I was coming down with bronchitis. And on the morning of December 7th, 2012, I woke up in the morning and I was feeling horrible. And then moments later, I really had thunder and lightning going through my chest. I could barely breathe. I went into the bathroom and I sank down on the floor where honestly I probably would have stayed. My husband, at midnight the night before, his best friend had texted him and said they were set to go out of town on a hunting trip. His best friend had texted him and said, "You know what? Let's call off the trip this one time. The direction of the wind has changed." I think that was a little bit of a divine thing myself.
Yes.
But
yes.
Anyway, he happened to be there. The kids had just left for school. He came into the bathroom to see what was going on, and I had the presence of mind to say, "Help me," and the words hospital. So he helped me down to the car. We got stuck in morning rush hour traffic immediately on 180th Street
Oh no.
on the way to Lakeside. And he ended up driving in the ditch all the way down 180th to get me out of the traffic because I was crashing that quickly. I remember getting to Lakeside. They bypassed me at check-in. They got me back to a room right away. The last thing I remember was John grabbing my hand before they made him leave the room, saying the words "through thick and thin." From there, I coded twice, once for 15 minutes before they brought me back with CPR. At that point, they told my family, "She has 5% heart life. She's not going to make it, but we're going to try to life flight her to Nebraska Medicine. But we've just got to be honest, she's not going to make it." My family said goodbye to me. They life flighted me over to Nebraska Medicine. They hooked me up to a machine called ECMO, which basically stands for extracorporeal machine with oxygenation. Basically, this incredible machine takes a mostly dead person and puts you on hold. It does the work of your heart and your lungs because your body cannot do it. All my organs shut down, my kidneys, my liver, and I sat in a coma for a week. I had at least one stroke because my blood pressure, and it is documented in a medical journal, but had gone to over 300 over 155 on more than one occasion. And but by the grace of God and incredible medical care, I was in a coma for a week. And my heart, though, over the course of the week, they were doing all kinds of tests to try to, initially they thought I had a heart virus.
Okay.
My husband signed to put me on a heart transplant list. And, but through the course of the week, they noticed my heart was getting 5% better, and then 10% better. And then within the week, on December 12th, 2012, so on 12/12/12, kind of a cool date, my heart ended up coming back fully functional. And it was at that time the doctor said, "Oh my gosh, she does not have a heart virus." Well, on top of everything else that had gone wrong, they had noticed I had a tumor on my adrenal gland. Your adrenals are basically what produce epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline. That tumor had spiked my adrenaline to over 500 times the level your body should have. I thought that was kind of a joke when the doctor told me that, but when she showed me the numbers, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's crazy." And which was like a lightning strike to my heart. It had caused a lot of the problems as far as that went. So anyway, a couple days later, they went to take me off the machine because my heart was starting, they needed it to start to work on its own. And I almost coded again then, and then once more when I was awake. I remember I woke up a total invalid a couple days later. I I couldn't walk. I couldn't use my hands. I could barely speak from the stroke. But I, gosh, I didn't know who the president was. I couldn't do third grade math. I mean, I was a mess. So let's be honest. I was a hot mess. But I did have the presence of mind as they were explaining it to me, and a lot of very excited doctors because they had prepared my family. We don't even think she'll know who she is when she wakes up, yet alone any of you. But I did recognize them. Anyway, sorry for the long story.
No, you're fine.
But I remember, though, my very first thoughts as my husband was helping me remember what had happened and filling me in on what I had missed, just thinking, thank you, God, that I get to go to my daughter's graduation. This has to be some kind of miracle. And even though I was restrained for a while because of everything they had me hooked up to, and it was really rebuilding my health from square zero, really.
Okay.
I like Sarah. It's like, I feel like I was grateful for every day before, but then we all agree. It's like it gets multiplied by 10.
Yes.
And I remember just thinking, find one good thing and build on that. There was still a lot of things going wrong, but I thought, you don't have to, just find one thing. Start there. And if I could encourage anybody going through a tough time, start with that.
Start with one thing.
But
yes.
Anyway, a long recovery process, but meeting these two in the process has been a gift beyond what I'll ever be able to say.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, I've heard Angie's story a bunch of times, and it's like every time it gets to me. Because it's like we're just so lucky that she's sitting here with us. And we
It's
appreciate
truly a
it.
blessing. Yes, yes.
And my story is nowhere near as dramatic as either of theirs, but
That's not
Oh,
true.
it's a miracle.
I should be the
miracle.
opener, really.
Had a massive stroke. It's no big deal.
Oh,
Our children saved her life.
Yeah.
Oh,
No
sorry.
biggie.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. And so for
So
me,
cool.
it was July of 2015, and it was when school was out, so the kids and I went to the grocery store. And I should preface this by saying that I've never had any real medical issues. And I was a fitness instructor. I am again now, but I was back then as well. And, pretty much a vegetarian diet all the time. So, I mean, a pretty good example of good health. And so anyhow, we go grocery shopping, everything's fine, we go home, we're putting the groceries away, and all of a sudden my right eye stops working. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And then I started to feel really dizzy and super exhausted just right off the bat. So I remember I was trying to lean under the sink to put dog treats under the sink, and I just fell over. And the kids are putting the groceries away with me, and I remember bits and pieces of what happened, but for the most part, my son, who was, like 9 at the time, was, Mom, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I remember asking him if I could have a pillow, so he runs off to get a pillow. Because when you're dying on the kitchen floor, you want to be comfortable, right?
oh.
So, I don't know, So then my daughter kind of just took charge. She was, 9, 10, she was probably about 12 at the time, 11 or 12. And she's like, Mom, I'm calling Dad. And this is where it gets weird, because I'll tell you right now, if you don't know much about stroke, it's an attack on your brain, and your thinking it's so abnormal. So even though this makes no sense, I didn't want her calling my husband, because I knew at that point that I was having a stroke. And are you crying at me?
Yes.
I knew I was having a stroke because I had all the checklists in my mind. I was like, that's what's happening. But his grandfather had died of a stroke in front of him, and it
Okay.
really affected him. So I was like, he can't come home to his wife dying of a stroke. Don't call him.
Right.
And I know it makes no sense, but back then it was like totally logical to my stroked out brain. So I'm lying on the kitchen floor, and I can't move, and I'm looking up, and my daughter's standing over me with her hands on her hips, and she's like, Mom, you're not okay. I'm calling Dad. Like, just asserting herself. And I was like, all right, call Dad, I guess, So she calls him. And I remember hearing her on the phone with him saying, something's wrong. You need to come home. Because he works maybe 9 minutes from our house.
Okay.
And so she hangs up the phone, and she says, Dad's on his way. And I was like, okay, cool. And I'm trying to talk to them to reassure them, because, if you're a mom, that's your job. So, and the words were coming out wrong. It sounded like somebody had recorded me and played it back in slow motion. That's what it sounded like to me, because my speech was getting affected right away. So anyhow, I don't really remember what happened while we were waiting, except I did get my pillow. So that's nice. And then my husband, I remember him coming up the steps, because you lead up steps to get to our kitchen. And he took one look at me, and he ran toward me, and he tried to lift me up. And when he did, my left side just collapsed. I couldn't move my left side. And so he kind of gently put me back down, and he's like, we need to call 911. And I remember he called them, and my sequence of events might be misconstrued because
That's fine.
I don't remember a lot of it. And they started asking questions like, ask her what's her name, ask her, you know, where she is and all this stuff. And I remember they said, what day is it? And I tried to say, this is the day the Lord has made. I will be glad and rejoice in it. But it came out like, blah, 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 like that. And the guys were like, what is she saying? But I remember I was adamant that that's what I wanted to say because I didn't know what day it was. I was like, whatever day it is, God is good, you know? So they took me away. You are making me emotional. They took me away, and as they're taking me away, this is the moment I really remember, is they had me on this gurney that's like designed for steps. So it's kind of like more like a chair than a lay down thing. And as they're taking me down, I remember the kids I could feel their like anxiety just coming away, out of them. And what I wanted to do in my illogical state was turn around and tell my husband, don't forget my life insurance is a different company than yours. Because I handle our finances.
Okay.
So I knew if I died, he wouldn't be able to right away figure out where the life insurance was. But then I think to myself, kids probably don't want to hear that right now, you know, so just he'll figure it out, he'll be fine. And off we went in the ambulance. And so as we're in the ambulance, I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember at one point I was just super tired and I just wanted to go to sleep. And I think at that point I may have been trying to die, actually, because they kind of grabbed me and they're like, stay with me, Tamsin, stay with me. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere, I'm fine, you know. But I was just so tired. And when I say tired, I think that was me kind of trying to fade away a little bit. So anyhow, we get to the hospital and they're asking me all these questions. Are you on birth control? Do you take drugs? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to answer them, but my words aren't working and coming out.
Right.
And then everything gets really jumbled in my brain. I don't remember a lot of that, except I do remember my husband and kids got there, and they were telling him something about, let's give her TPA, but he had to consent to it. And he consented to it right away. And after they gave me TPA, my words came back.
Okay.
TPA breaks up the blood clot. So, for anybody who doesn't know. And that's the medication that you're only eligible for if they catch your stroke within a certain amount of time. It used to be like an hour, but now it's like 4 or something.
4, yeah.
Yeah, they extended it recently, I think. 4 or 5 hours? You can get TPA within 4 or 5 hours of your stroke. Thank you. Yeah. So that's really what started bringing me back. I could start using my words again and start talking, but my left side didn't come back. My left side was still super just not useful at all. So at some point, and I don't remember if this was in the ICU or if this was when I was transferred, it's all jumbled. I know I keep saying it's jumbled, but I can't understate how, you know, jumbled everything was. One doctor said, we're going to do a little test on you to see if you have a hole in your heart. I was like, I don't have a hole in my heart. Come on now. So they put me under, and as I'm waking up, everybody's having this discussion in the room about, yeah, she has a hole in her heart. As I'm waking up, that's what I'm hearing. And I was like, I have a what in my what? What are you talking about? So it turns out that, unbeknownst to me, I had a hole in my heart, and then I also have a genetic propensity, genetic mutation, thank you, that helped, a genetic mutation that causes my blood to clot. So I had a blood clot that went through the hole in my heart and went up to my brain. So that's how I had my stroke. And so, you know, just like these ladies, I mean, I was flabbergasted by the whole thing, but I was also determined. I said, I know I'm going to get better, and when I get better, I'm going to help other people with this. Because as I was lying in the ICU, I couldn't figure out how to use my phone. I was trying to call my brother to tell him what was going on, but I couldn't figure out how to use my phone. And so once I figured out how to use my phone, I started searching on Google. I was like, where's some survivor recovery stories? You know, people that have been through what I've been through, and they're okay. And I couldn't find any. Everybody was like, he had a massive stroke and then he died, or he had a massive stroke and then he couldn't walk forever, and all this.
He was a senior citizen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, I need to find stories about people like me of my age who were okay afterward. And there were none. So I said, when I get better, I'm going to figure out a way to spread the word that you can recover. Maybe not 100%, but maybe, you know, 99 with a bonus. I don't know what I am, but, you know, that was always my mission. And so when we started meeting up, I was like, we can do this. Let's do this.
Yes. And all three of you, I mean, I am just in awe. And we have to get the word out that stroke is no longer an old person's disease. People think, it's an old person, it's somebody who's overweight. And you all look fabulous to me. So, or, and even, learning the recent stats that the average age for a person in Nebraska to have their first stroke is 42. And even learning that,
I didn't know
I didn't know
that.
that either.
yeah,
Wow.
the average age and for African Americans in the state of Nebraska is 32. So
Wow.
just to get the word out, that no, you need to protect yourself now. And if you know that your family is predisposed to heart disease or different things like that, and then in your case, you didn't even know
I had no
that
idea.
you had no idea that you had a hole in your heart, just different things like that. It is really important for us to be advocates for our health, and that's why we had started For the Love of You, just to have average everyday stories, because like you're saying, you Google to see, okay, who's a stroke survivor, what's this, and it's just like nothing. You never hear survivor stories, especially amongst women. And I can't overemphasize too that being a woman, you have to be an advocate for your health, because this is my research coming out. It used to be back in the day, all research for everything was done on white males. And now they're finding, of course, that women are different. And even when it comes to ethnicity, it used to be back in the day when women were having strokes or heart attacks. Oh, no, you're not doing this. This is a men's thing. This, like we don't have stress factors or we don't have underlying factors ourselves. So this is just, I am just in awe of you ladies and your story. And you're right. I love the spiritual aspect of it as well. The more that we can get the information out there, to people, to the community, this is something that is definitely needed. So that was one of the reasons for for us starting For the Love of You, to let people know about heart disease and stroke in Omaha's community. And who knows, maybe one day we'll go viral. Who knows? And encourage other people, just as you ladies are the Stromies, to find ways that you can help each other out. You can get through this, and like I said, I can't overemphasize enough your spirituality with that as well, because you always have to think and believe in something bigger than yourself, whatever you're going through. Anybody else want to?
It can either pull you away from faith or pull you
Closer to.
closer. And with us, we definitely had faith before, but we have faith like no other now. And we all go to church and are close to our church families, and it's made a huge impact, definitely in my life, because I don't know what I would do without those people. So.
And I just go ahead.
I think that it also, one thing I guess I have to say about Sarah, because it makes me cringe every time I hear it in just kind of a divine way, I guess, but her daughter, you remember it was her daughter that sent her to the emergency room, and after all the testing and everything, her daughter was fine. But she got her to the absolute best place you could be.
Right.
Yes. I always forget that part because I had a stroke, just in case you wondered. So I kind of forget things sometimes. We always tease about it,
We have each other. It's like
Yeah.
sort of.
We're a trifecta. But it's nice to be able to joke about it, because
Yes.
people, it is a very serious thing, and I completely agree with that. But you've got to find humor and joy and laugh, and that's one of the things about the three of us. We crack up every time we get together, and I think that spreading that positivity and joy to others, not only stroke survivors, is huge,
Yes.
because people that have been through traumatic events definitely struggle with that and want to see other people not only surviving but thriving.
thriving,
And that
yes,
that would
yes,
be what
definitely.
we're trying to get across.
You are definitely getting that across. And I can't overemphasize, too, for people that now we all know, call 911 and let them know you are having a stroke, because the emergency room will know how to get you into your care as soon as you get there, versus saying, no, we can just get there. No, dial 911, tell them that you're having a stroke. And even if if the EMTs show up here through the fire department, they'll better be prepared. Yes, this person is having a stroke, this person is having a heart incident, and they know the protocol and the procedures that they have to handle in order to, help, let's start this life-saving process with you in regards to, you having a stroke and heart attack. And just to see that you ladies are surviving, and like you said, not just surviving, you're thriving too. I just love the humor and the camaraderie that I see here. This is just awesome to me, because you are really exuding for the love of you, because you're still, you're still exercising, you're still doing things, you're still looking fabulous. So just things, to keep that positive outlook on life, that you are survivors, and it's just really great. Anybody?
We're just so grateful. I think that's the biggest thing, is we're grateful, and it's a way to kind of take a mess, make it a message, and hopefully we can just maybe empower or encourage other people.
Yes.
Is there a way for you guys? Do you want to say something together as a group? What would you want to say the Stromies are about?
Well, check us out at stromies.com. Because there are so many blogs of encouragement and just stories from other survivors. Just to brag on behalf, Sarah has taken over our Instagram. And we have connected with stroke survivors all over the world, which has been amazing. Tamsin has put up our website, stromies.com, and the blogs and the things like that have been more than what I ever expected.
It's been amazing.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's been
it really
so cool.
has.
I don't really know what I do. I'm just there with them to be.
She's our public relations coordinator.
Yeah. Who is this coordinated by? Oh yeah, you. Oh well.
One of the stories that I was sent recently was in Dutch. And so I sent it to Tamsin. I said, I had to translate this, so you can make adjustments if you need to. And she was like, "You speak Dutch?"
Sure.
And I was like, no, Google Translate. She was like, well, I guess I never said, Sarah, do you speak Dutch?
After the stroke.
After the stroke, yeah. But just things like that, finding humor with these ladies, it just fills my heart.
Okay. Well, like we were saying, we are here today with the Stromies for Stroke Homies for this edition of For the Love of You, once again to encourage you to take control of your health and not to, I lost my words, and to always pay attention to what your body is telling you, because you never know what may cause it. I mean, you see the ladies here, they're not overweight, they're active, so it's different things, and it's also good to know your family history as well, if you can, so that you can help, find out if there are certain things, genetic mutations or different things like that in your family that could probably cause heart disease and stroke as well. So, anything else you ladies like to say? Does the Stromies have a theme?
Yeah.
Do you have a little catch theme or anything?
Oh gosh, we always do Life is Why, just like the American Heart and Stroke Association, just because we truly believe that. I mean, that's what we live for every day. So that's probably kind of our motto too.
Well, and your health matters so much. As moms, sometimes you
Yes.
can be so caught up in all the things we do, when really the most important thing is take care of your health.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the love of you, and you ladies have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for having us.